Hello, I am your host, Mandy Lewis, and I head up marketing here at Zenith. Welcome to the third video. We are almost complete. This week, we're delighted to welcome a client, Steve, who's an IT leader who actually switched how he purchased technology from CapEx to OpEx, bundling the technology with Zenith services, and we're delighted to welcome him to share his experience with you now. So, Mark, if you'd like to make those introductions.
Yeah, sure. So I've known Steve for a very, very long time. Always had a great relationship over the time and really been working together to try and bring new technologies to the places that he's worked and helped him along the path. So, always part of what we're trying to do at Zenith is trying to work the value to the client. So one of the things that we came across a couple of years ago was this particular point around looking at this slightly differently. So I reached out to Steve. We had a couple of conversations about the different options and we did something different. And hopefully Steve can feed us in on, how that's impacted him and how it's changed what he does from a day-to-day point of view. So Steve, over to you.
Hi Mark, hi everyone. Yes, so my name's Steve Coldwell. I work for a specialist Lloyd's of London insurance firm who underwrite insurance close to $1 billion US premium annually, and an IT service function who supports around 350 end users in the UK and abroad. So I've worked with Mark and Zenith for a number of years and knew of him prior to this engagement with my current firm. We service and look after the fleet across Apollo.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. So quick question, Steve, for the audience. How did you buy technology previously, and what were some of the pain points that you felt through that program?
Sure. Like many London insurers, we were a very traditional office-based environment. Everyone had desktop PCs. Everyone had main desk locations in our primary office, and for about 45% of our staff, they had a separate desktop environment in a satellite location or a trade floor. We purchased all our hardware outright and depreciated the PCs, the computers, over I think 5 years. The problem often with that was our growth and our changing technology demands. That technology change over that period of time was often a lot shorter than the lifespan of the hardware and a lot shorter than depreciation. We often needed upgrades, we needed replacements before we fully depreciated it. So we got into a point where we had to manage, support a surplus of inferior computer stock that we still were depreciating, and we kept that in a stock room that we rolled out whenever we needed to under emergency circumstances or when we had to be flexible when we brought contractors in, had to be flexible around our user base, and that caused us a technology debt around our hardware in itself. It also meant that back when I first joined, we were a company of about 180 people. We had in excess of 270 devices or PCs within that lifespan that we were using or storing across our sites.
Yeah, so you overstocked to keep yourselves protected.
Well, some were just old. So yes, some of the stock was old. So we would have the office location, our satellite office within the Lloyd's building, and then for 2 desktops for those people. We had some devices for home users, and we had a load of stock that we had to keep. We still were paying it, we still depreciated it, we didn't cancel it out. So in theory, still requiring maintenance, still requiring licensing, still requiring support.
That's great, Steve. So what attracted you to the different model other than my charm and charisma?
That had very little to do with it. We were already moving in a strategic change direction towards utilizing more of the Microsoft modern desktop principles, moving away from traditional application deployments, moving away from the traditional ways of working. So as a business and as an IT department, our strategy was to move towards being able to be more hybrid working, to have more web-based clients or web-based application clients, so not needing fat client installs, And we were driving that technology change within our end users and our applications. It was a slow progress until obviously then COVID hit, and the COVID pandemic accelerated how we deployed devices, how we managed that. We suddenly had 200 people working at home, trying to access our systems and doing stuff on their own, bring your own devices or without security control. So to be blunt, the COVID pandemic accelerated our plans, allowed us to look at that, causing ourselves a small problem in itself. We weren't, or I wasn't that happy with the idea of the capital outlay of replacing the desktops we had and everything with laptops in a volatile and uncertain time of history. We didn't know what was happening within the COVID pandemic. No one did. No one knew what was going to be the future of working. Common theme for the 2 years or 2.5 years. But we needed to provide security. We needed to provide control of our data, and we needed our environment and support base to be, in a relatively short period of time, accelerated to a laptop working model. That allowed us to address our procurement, and the OPEX model at that point, although we'd started talking about it, it really proved its worth. It was something that we can be flexible with this. We can take this model, we can take that approach and minimize any possible pain points that we had.
Cool. So now that you've done it and you've been through the cycle and you're about to come through the cycle again, what are the benefits that you've seen from technology as a service rather than the outright purchase? What benefits have you gained and insights can you share with the audience?
I think it still underpins our fully hybrid model. We don't dictate people come in the office. We have no desktop computers anymore. Many were coming to the end of the age or their lifespan, and then the COVID pandemic took most of them out of the equation anyway. So we had fully adopted that laptop cycle model. When we did so, and again, pre-COVID, we were contemplating this, we were discussing this. We know that laptops are not going to, they take some abuse and punishment in their lifespan. We never expected to depreciate them over the period of time. We always said, because of the change in technology as well within laptops and the limitations you have, 3 years is the longest we're ever going to depreciate them if we purchase them. So to have an OPEX model across 3 years, when you're going to replace them anyway, made kind of perfect sense. We now are our fleet change. We're replacing the majority of our fleet. We are able to look at newer models, different models that are more appropriate to the way that we work now. Some more powerful, some more portable and lightweight, so we can change and adjust and have flexibility without that concern of the capex expenditure. And it gives us flexibility, which is great. One of it's a minor benefit, but it's still a benefit. We don't necessarily have to worry about the removal or the destruction of those devices, or how we're going to get rid of them, or how we're going to recycle them, or what we're going to do with those. We hand them back. We've got the contract with Zenith, who will do the destruction of the data and remove that, and then it's off our hands. We don't need to worry about it. So that is a minor benefit. It's still a benefit. It's something that we used to in this company and in others historically. You could always find a stockroom full of archaic kit that no one just got rid of because it's a pain to get rid of it. So we don't have to worry about that as well, which is an advantage.
Cool. So I think one of the other things that we've heard, like a common theme along the way, is obviously when you get to that, when you were in the purchase model and you get to that, 4 or 5 year thing, that's when things start to, battery life starts to die, CPUs start to fail, the technology starts to get to its natural endpoint. And I gather that's something that you haven't really felt this time around, because, as you're starting to get to that point of refresh, you don't get the cycle of pain. I think what others in RT have called it is that you keep on having to refresh and keep on getting that extra burden from an RT support perspective on that kit. Have you felt that change?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we gave it gave us the ability to actually survey our end users and say, look, we are replacing this fleet. What didn't you like? What did you like? We are changing it. Whereas historically, you'd never do that. You're in an ever revolving cycle of buying laptops, replacing the oldest, buying laptops that are broken, replacing those and fixing them, and going through that cycle, and analyze what you were buying, or how you were buying it, how that worked. You mentioned battery life. Laptop batteries don't last long. I think on the hardware warranty, I might be wrong, but I remember the old days where the laptop warranty was 3 years, except for the battery, which is 1 year. So we're getting that point. We're getting that point where those batteries are starting to fail and need replacing. Well, we're probably okay for the moment, but after the 4th year, as you said, or post 3 years mark, that's why we said we'd have to depreciate them. They become obsolete too quickly. Components start failing, or limited, or limitations. We have power users that demand high workstation laptops. We can now swap those out relatively easily. So one of the other things, our business and our adoption of this model presents a unique use case, because you don't often get the chance to see someone who went out and bought a complete fleet of laptops all on day one of COVID pandemic. And you can actually look back at we can look back at what we've procured, what we've used, and you see all the warning signs, all the things that IT leaders constantly talk about depreciation of devices, about devices breaking after a period of time, about the battery life dying after 3 years, about the components no longer being supported by applications. We can see that en masse. Our whole company has seen that. We have lost recently the ability to work with some of our initial purchased laptops that we bought before the model that we took engaged with Zenith, just because they aren't supported anymore. To have that kind of use case where you see a whole company's estate and fleet of devices provides that evidence to the theory that IT leaders constantly talk about.
That's amazing. Thanks, Steve. Really appreciate your insight, and thanks for sharing with us all today. Mandy, have you got any other questions for us?
No, Steve, thank you so much. Mark, when you think about how to demonstrate the value of equipment, IT to finance leaders, like how are you thinking?
So I think from a finance leader perspective, the finance leaders are always looking to maximize the return on investment, getting the maximum cost savings and cash flow management. So tech as a service gives them that, Steve alluded to that piece, that gives that company, you can achieve those objectives. You can achieve that return on investment. You've got a subscription model that ensures that you're getting the maximum utilization, you're going to reduce your waste, and you're going to increase the productivity of your fleet. So I think that's where it comes in. And then you've got the added benefits that you've got predictability of that cost. You know what it's going to cost you in 3 years' time. You know what your budget you've got available. Things have massively changed. You need more power users, then you know that you've got that flexibility to be able to change that through, but you're not going to see huge jumps in that. And I think additionally, by adding a wrap of services around it, we can actually give more benefits back to RT teams by taking away that burden and actually starting to look at this as a full service element where we take that to the next stage. And I think RT, finance leaders always like to see more than they paid for coming through the door. So any additional services, we can put software and other subscription models onto that same finance program, allows them to extend what they could have done with the same budget that they had available.
That's right, because if you think about Steve's environment, you've got all those hundreds of laptops in the field. You don't know when it's going to disrupt your schedule of doing other IT implementations, right? So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think the final point is, Steve talked about it there, we minimize that disruption. Yeah. We minimize that change disruption now. So Steve should hopefully build a new solution design with us of these, survey these users, and we feed that back in, and it's a nice like-for-like swap for the RT teams and finance leaders love no disruption to business for obvious reasons.
Yes. Thanks, Steve, for joining Mark and sharing your experience with our viewers. Viewers, keep those questions coming. We'll have answers and help on the way. So our last and final video, number 4, we'll be meeting with James Springer from Vanquish Tech. and together we'll show you how we can solve the biggest challenges while creating some better opportunities to pivot for the next 6 months. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Steve, thanks very much. Appreciate it.